Well, folks, looks like the day has finally come. The day when when the Gentiles would begin a new war against Israel. Now you might say, oh, that's just Hamas and the people of the Middle East. No, 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 folks, no. I'm going to show you some things today that will enlighten you, take you out of the darkness, expose who all is behind this. Do not be fooled. Let's get started. So what I want to do is go to, where was I? I want to start right here. The U.S. debt clock. Quoted Revelation 1 and verse 10 on yesterday, or last night, I believe it was last night at 9:04 p.m. What does it say? Well, in English it says, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard a great voice as of a trumpet. The word spirit in Hebrew is ruach. And in Hebrew, this is the day of Jehovah's wrath. If you want to, in fact, I might just need to go ahead, make sure everybody understands what this means. So we go to Bible Hub, Yol 2. Yol 2, yes. I believe I can find it in Yol 2. Now, what I want to point out to you in Yol 2, this first section of Yol 2 is in reference to the Roman armies coming in and destroying Jerusalem as locusts. All right? Now, this next section is the promise of restoration. Restoration promised. Now, it's never the Lord. It is Jehovah. Do you see that? Jehovah is the Abba, the creator of all. Okay? And at this restoration, where he will remove from off of them the northern army. All right? Now, verse 31, and the sun will be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, facing the great and terrible, dreadful, frightful day of Jehovah. Comes. All right? Is there any question as to what that is referring to? Now, going back to what I was talking about, I did a video 8 months ago. Maybe you should go check it out. Russia just labeled Israel as terrorists. Is invasion of Israel. Gog-Magog war next. And how many views did it get on YouTube? 41. That's it. YouTube, the greatest social media platform on the earth today. and everybody's asleep. Okay. And what day did this happen? The night before, I had a dream. And this is the first time you'll ever hear me talk about any of my dreams, because I have been outspoken about this. The dreams from Jehovah will not come until the day of Jehovah's wrath. And how do I know this? Joel 2. And in the after part, I will pour out my ruach, not spirit, ruach, on flesh, on the flesh of your sons and your daughters. Who are your sons and daughters? He is speaking to you as an old man, therefore the people of Israel. They will prophesy, and your old men will dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. It is on that day. This is why I have never mentioned any of my dreams ever on any video or to anybody for any religious, spiritual, prophetic, biblical purposes, because I don't believe in them until this day comes. But I'll mention you this dream. It was on the same day as Shemini Atzeret. What does it mean? Well, it can be seen to guard the 7 days of Sukkot. The Hebrew word Atzeret is generally translated as assembly, but shares a linguistic root with the word Atzor, which means stop or tarry. Wait a minute, don't go yet. Shemini Atzeret is characterized as a day when the Jewish people tarry to spend an additional day with not God, but Jehovah at the end of Sukkot. All right? So what was this dream I had? It was just a very, very short dream. It was just before it was time to wake up. I was walking to temple with members of my family. But one thing that I found in it, walking to temple, that's right, in Jerusalem, in Israel, as if it was this particular day, Shemini Atzeret. And as I went to sit down, I noticed that everybody had a very large, frilly shirt on. I was barefooted. Now, that may seem strange to some, but in my younger days, most of my time I was walking around barefooted, so that's not unusual. There was really nothing unusual about the dream. But what struck, after I woke up, I thought about the dream. I said, well, that's interesting. Maybe I should write it down so that I remember it, because if I don't write my dreams down, I'll forget it. And wouldn't you know it, on the same day, they start firing shots at Israel, taking prisoners, raping women, stripping them naked out in the streets. It was almost as if I really don't know what the dream means yet. But I find it interesting that it occurred on that particular day. But anyway, enough with the dream. So we just read, just a reminder, and you might want to go and check out that video. So Russia has been harboring, giving signs to Israel's enemies that Israel are the terrorists, right? Day before yesterday, the Taliban asked Iran for free passage to assist Hamas in Gaza in war on Israel after Joe Biden armed Taliban with $80 billion in U.S. weapons and supplies. Now some will say that this is a skewed right-wing or whatever website. We all know what happened. We all know what happened. What happened was an utter disgrace. A backhanded way, a back-channeled way of arming Israel's enemies. That's what it was. Now, a lot of people have been saying, there is no way that Israeli intelligence community did not know about this. You know, and quite frankly, I'm having a hard time with it myself. But as I pointed out to each and every one of you, the current Israeli government is a vassal of Rome, aka the United Nations. Does that particular government have the Jewish people's best interest at heart? No. They have the interests of Rome at heart. Egypt intelligence official says Israel ignored repeated warnings of something big. Former top Israeli officers say failure to heed alerts only one aspect of massive intelligence and political blunders. Cairo official says Israel focused on Judea and Samaria, not West Bank, instead of Gaza. Mounting questions over Israel's massive intelligence failure to anticipate and prepare for a surprise assault were compounded Monday when an Egyptian intelligence official said that Jerusalem had ignored repeated warnings that the Gaza-based terror group was planning something big. The Egyptian official said Egypt, which often serves as mediator between Israel and Hamas, had spoken repeatedly with the Israelis about something big without elaborating. He said Israeli officials were focused on Judea and Samaria and played down the threat from Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government is made up of supporters of Judea and Samaria settlers who have demanded a security crackdown there in the face of rising tide of violence over the last 18 months. We warned them that an explosion of the coming situation is coming, and very soon, and it would be big. But they underestimated such warnings. The official, who spoke on condition of anonymity because he wasn't authorized to discuss the content of sensitive intelligence discussions with the media, told the Associated Press. However, Israel was not only ignoring clear warning from its allies. For Palestinians in Gaza, Israel's eyes are very far away. Surveillance drones buzz constantly in the skies. The high secured border is awash with security cameras and soldiers on guard. Intelligence agencies work sources with cyber capabilities to draw out information. But Israel's eyes appear to have been closed in the lead up to the surprise onslaught by Hamas terror group, which broke through Israeli border barriers and sent hundreds of terrorists into Israel to carry out a brazen attack that killed over 700 people. Now they're saying 800. I think I saw one that said 1,200, but I'm not sure, and wounded over 2,000. Israel's intelligence agencies have gained an aura of invincibility over the decades because of a string of achievements. Israel has foiled plots seated in Judea and Samaria, allegedly hunting down Hamas operatives in Dubai, and has even been accused of killing Iranian nuclear scientists in the heart of Iran. Even when their efforts have stumbled, agencies like Mossad, Shin Bet, and military intelligence have maintained their mystique. Well, not any longer. Now, the government of Israel is seen as weak. Israel needs the Moshiach. Israel needs the Moshiach now. War news. Hamas deception operation. How it spent 2 years building a fake image to fool Israel. The Hamas plan, how it caught them sleeping. Are you sleeping or are you awake? Because the Gentiles are sleeping right now as well. The day of Jehovah's wrath is going to come as a thief in the night. And this situation, and the day of Jehovah's wrath, make no mistake about it, is upon the Gentiles. It is not on Israel. Israel has suffered its tribulation already. Nearly 2,000 years ago, when Vespasian and Titus destroyed Jerusalem with the armies of Rome. The above was reported to Reuters by a source close to the organization, revealing aspects of the deception campaign that preceded the shocking attack that began on Saturday, and so far has caused the deaths of at least 700 Israelis. This campaign has had a twofold goal. According to an agency source, on one hand, Hamas had to convince Israel that it did not want armed conflict, while on the other hand, it had to ensure that there would not be the slightest leak about its precise military plans. Based on this testimony, and that 3 other sources connected to the Israeli authorities, Reuters pieced together the puzzle of the preparation of the surprise attack, which many parallel to the 9/11 strike against the U.S. Hamas has been giving Israel the impression that it is not ready for battle. It has used an unprecedented tactic to mislead Israel in recent months, creating the impression that it is unwilling to engage on the battlefield while preparing this massive offensive, says close sources of Hamas. According to the same person, while Israel thought it had conflict-weary Hamas under control thanks to financial incentives it offered Gaza workers, the organization's fighters were training intensively, often in public view. A linchpin of Hamas's plan was to convince Israel that the organization cared more about ensuring workers in the Gaza Strip had access to jobs across the border, and that it was not at all interested in starting a new war. In preparation for its attack, Hamas had built a fake Israeli settlement in Gaza, where its fighters trained to occupy it, even taking videos of the exercises they carried out there. Surely the Israelis would have seen them, but they were convinced they had no intention of getting involved in the war, says the source. After the 2021 conflict with Hamas, Israel sought to create a basic level of economic stability in Gaza by offering financial incentives such as thousands of job permits so that Gazans could work in Israel or Judea and Samaria, where wages in construction or in the fields where they can be up to 10 times higher. We thought that the fact that they were coming to work and bringing money to Gaza would create some calm. We made a mistake, said a representative of the Israeli army to the agency. They made us believe they wanted money, but all this time they were training with drills, a source from Israel's security forces told Reuters. In the context of theater it played, Hamas refrained for at least 2 years from military operations against Israel, an abstention that only caused a lot of criticism from its supporters, who believed that they now only cared about money. Another important part of Hamas's plan was to ensure that there was no leakage to Israel, which until recently has been renowned for its ability to infiltrate Islamist groups and monitor their movements. Even senior Hamas officials did not know the exact plan of the attack before it entered the final stretch. In their preparation, the 1,000 Hamas fighters who eventually took part in the attack had no idea what they were training for. So you mean to tell me 1,000 Hamas fighters literally pulled this off? Now Israel looks invincible. Now they look weak. Now they look small. Now they look frail. And the Gentiles are wolves. Many want to join and take part in this. I will get to a video that proves that point. Another video. Okay. Not video, but another article. From War News. Come on now. Prophecy. Vladimir Zhirinovsky. Ukraine will be forgotten with the war in the Middle East. Zhirinovsky is one of Vladimir Putin's favorite politicians. And he says this. So Israel called to arms 300,000 reservists, for starters, within 48 hours. Now, the story that I heard was more than 300,000 showed up. Okay? So, a total siege of Gaza begins. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced that he had ordered a total siege of the Gaza Strip with no food, no fuel or electricity allowed to enter the Gaza Strip along with anything else. Gallant further stated, "We are fighting human animals and we will act accordingly." The situation is extremely difficult for the Israeli army, and fear exists now goes by the name of Hezbollah. The military penetration of the military army into Gaza is sure to cause a bloodbath unrest. Will Hezbollah and other organizations or Iran stay out? A little while ago, Hezbollah spokesman said, "Palestine is not Ukraine. If the U.S. intervenes immediately, all U.S. locations in the region will become legitimate targets of the axis of resistance and face our attacks. On that day, there will be no red line." A new war with Hezbollah looks increasingly likely. An engagement now with Hezbollah, while it is already at war and activating the reserve forces, is now more likely than later when the Israeli army will be unprepared for such a conflict. We remind you that Hezbollah has a large stockpile of anti-ship missiles. Its capabilities have evolved significantly since, thanks to Iran. It is worth noting that Hamas announced at dawn the successful outcome of a new operation on the southern front, which it kidnapped an unknown number of settlers. There are still 7 communities inside of Israel where there are terrorists, Hamas gunmen fighting inside civilian communities. Okay. Now, here is the so-called prophecy from Vladimir Zhirinovsky. At this point, it is worth referring to the prophetic prediction from 2019 of the Russian Vladimir Zhirinovsky, who had close relations with both Vladimir Putin and Russian secret services. In 1999, the late Russian politician Vladimir Zhirinovsky predicted the conflict in Ukraine, and his predictions seem to extend to the current situation in Israel and Palestine. Or Israel/Palestine, as they say. And as I've often mentioned, the word Palestine is a curse. It is a name that will soon be wiped from every dictionary around the world. Former LDPR leader Vladimir Zhirinovsky predicted that by 2024 everyone will have forgotten Ukraine because of the conflict in the Middle East. He made this statement in 2019 on the air of a political talk show host in Russia 24 TV channel. Zhirinovsky told one of his Ukrainian opponents that the elections in 2024 in Ukraine will not take place since the country will not exist. These were the last elections in 2024. You will not have elections because there will be no country called Ukraine. You do not take into account the situation in the Middle East. Such events will unfold where everyone will completely forget what Ukraine is. Things are headed for World War III. Iran is not Vietnam, nor North Korea, or Kosovo. The most terrible events will happen there, and your country is over. Would you like to see the video?
Выборы последние были. В 2024 году выборов у вас не будет. Не будет страны под названием Украина. Будем учитывать ситуацию на Ближнем Востоке. Там развернутся такие события, что все забудут вообще, что такое Украина. Дело идет о Третьей мировой войне. И Иран это не Вьетнам, и не Северная Корея, и не Косово. Здесь будут самые страшные события.
Was that it? Anyway, you get the picture. All right? Now, let's see. So, meanwhile, thousands of fakestinians have gathered at Al Aqsa, where they claim a third temple of Solomon is going to be built. What people don't realize is the third temple was already built. It was destroyed. The whole notion that another temple is going to be built before the day of wrath comes is in error. And both the Jews and the Christians believe this error. It is extremely unfortunate, but I have in several of my videos pointed out the truth about it. That the third temple was actually Herod's temple. You had Solomon's temple, you had Zerubbabel's temple, and you had Herod's temple. Prove me wrong. You can't do it. Now, what is going to happen, however, is the throne is going to come down very close to this spot here. And the throne will be white hot with fire and burn everything in near proximity to it. Okay, that's what's going to happen. And hopefully we'll all see it. So, Al Jazeera points out, what was yesterday, I believe, day before yesterday, U.S. shoots down Turkish drone over Syria after attacks near Hasaka. That's very interesting. We almost had a fight between the U.S. and Turkey. And Turkey, by the way, retaliated. Now I'm going to play this for you. Read carefully.
Ve yerleşimci şiddetinden derin endişe duyuyor. Bu vesileyle hayatını kaybeden Filistinli kardeşlerimize bir kez daha Allah'tan rahmet, Filistin devleti ve halkına başsağlığı diliyorum.
All right. I hope you can read the handwriting on the wall, folks. Now, Drudge Report. There's no way that I have time to go through all of these articles. I would suggest that you do so. Siege of Gaza, water, food, power cut off, grief and anger in Israel as fight continues. Hamas says attacks were backed by Iran. Revolutionary Guard gave go-ahead last week in Beirut. The guest Palestinian mastermind, they built mock town and practiced assault in plain sight. Worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. 100 plus hostages taken. Naked woman paraded, at least 9 Americans killed. Desert rave turns into hell. 750 attendees missing. Greatest intel failure in Israeli history. Celebrations in London, kosher restaurant windows smashed. Sydney crowd chants Allahu Akbar. Counter-protesters rally in Manhattan. Kremlin sees high risk of third-party entering conflict. Across Middle East surge of support for fakestinians. Missiles from Lebanon threaten wider battle. Saudis blame Israel. Of course. So much for the vaunted Abraham Accords. Alright, so we just, the invasion is hours away, they said yesterday. I'm not sure about this is happening so fast, folks, there's no way in the world I can keep up with it, so I just wanted to do this video. Probably best way to find, I'm going to have to, I'll put all these links up here. I'll try to do that. If I can. Because some of them will not be shown on mainstream news, like the Turkish president warning the U.S. to stay out of it, that they're going to get behind the fakestinians. So you can be sure there's going to be more videos coming up now. I think we're standing on the precipice of the day of Jehovah's wrath now. I firmly believe that. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know if it's going to be months or weeks. But you read what Vladimir Zhirinovsky said before he died. Now the fact that he knew, and he's an enemy of Israel, that he knew what was going to happen and when it was going to happen, and the rest of this world does not, that tells you it was all planned by Israel's enemies. In Russia, in Iran, in Turkey, and many other nations, and I would dare say in the United States itself. How convenient to put these massive amounts of weapons into the hands of the Taliban and then leave. Interesting, isn't it?